I think any kind of journaling is useful. Writing about what we are reading and listening to, we make sense of it. That's why I write. I write to make sense of the ideas that I'm gathering in my mind.
Have you ever wondered how writing can support your well-being? Join us on Grafto, the Power of Writing podcast, where we explore the transformative power of words. I'm your host, Alina Maragelis, and together with our amazing guests, we'll delve into the world of writing and its incredible benefits. So today I'm joined by Judy Klipin, a COMENSA registered master life coach with 27 years of experience in training, facilitation, and research. Judy specializes in helping individuals and teams set healthy boundaries and find better balance in their lives. She coaches clients to feel more able, active, and empowered, often delving into areas like burnout prevention, relationship building, and safety in workplace. Judy is also the author of 3 insightful books: Recover from Your Childhood, Life Lesson for the Adult Child, Recover from Burnout, Life Lesson to Regain Your Purpose and Passion, and Make Work Work for You. So, life lesson for the world of work. Well, Judy, first of all, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I love the life lesson theme in the title of your books. And perhaps we can start with that. What was it like to write these books? And was it therapeutic for you?
So interesting. Yes, I think definitely the first 2 books, the Recover from Your Childhood and Recover from Burnout, were definitely my own therapy. And in fact, the first time Recover from Your Childhood was published, it was called Life Lessons for the Adult Child. It got republished in 2019 as Recover from Your Childhood. And then we kept Life Lessons for the Adult Child. And the reason why I started with that in 2011 was that I had been coaching for a few years, and I had started to notice that there was a trend, not only in myself, but also in the people I was coaching. And I happened upon the writings of a woman called Dr. Janet Woititz, who wrote a book about, well, she talked about adult children of alcoholics. She wrote many books, actually. And it was so useful for me to read that book. My definition of an adult child is broader than an adult child of alcoholics. My definition of an adult child is anyone who had a childhood that was unpredictable or inconsistent in some way or for some time, which I genuinely believe is most of us, and certainly most of us who grew up in South Africa, where I live. Because life happens, and no matter how hard your parents try, you can't create a perfect childhood for your children. There's always going to be some kind of unpredictability, wars, inconsistencies that come from having to move house, or having a parent who is an alcoholic or a drug addict, or a special needs sibling, or divorce or financial problems. There's so many issues that can give rise to some of the characteristics of adult children. And I noticed that there wasn't very much to read about it here in South Africa. So I developed an e-coaching course where I offered this course, and people signed up. And then every week I would create some content, 500 to 1,000 words of content that I would email out to the people who had subscribed, and they read the content. And then part of it was that I asked them a whole lot of coaching questions that they then wrote the answers to and submitted them back to me, so that I could then give them some coaching over writing. And then that evolved into writing an ebook, and then that evolved into writing a published book. So it was a combination of my own healing that I was writing about, and my own deepening my understanding of the issues, and then also offering it as an opportunity for my clients to not just read, but also process the information by writing about it and by having an interactive writing experience with me. And then I did the same with the Burnout book, because I started to notice that many people who were adult children were also prone to developing burnout. And so the Burnout book is a kind of an extension of the adult child book.
And how would you say it affects us as adults, our behaviors that we've learned perhaps unhealthy?
So I think that there are many good ways that it affects us. There are many wonderful things about being an adult child. We're very resourceful, we're resilient, we take initiative, we're good at problem solving, we're loyal, we're responsible and reliable. But there are a few things that are very challenging and that stop us from reaching our potential. So some of those traits are, some of Janet Wojcicz's traits are that we guess what normal is. So the way I describe it to my clients is that we feel like everybody else got the instruction manual to life and we're the only ones who have to make it up as we go along. We have difficulty following projects through from beginning to end. So we might start things with great enthusiasm and excitement, and then as soon as it gets too hard or maybe a bit boring, we abandon it. We are either super responsible or super irresponsible. And often we are super responsible to everybody around us and super irresponsible towards ourselves.
Yes.
We can be intensely loyal, even when that loyalty is obviously misplaced. So we stay in jobs or relationships or driving cars that are falling to pieces or whatever long after we should. What else do? We can be very impulsive. We judge ourselves without mercy, so we're very hard on ourselves. We constantly seek approval and affirmation. So we're always trying to get that pat on the head, and we often don't believe it when it comes. And then my own observation of my clients is we struggle to ask for help. We struggle to say no. So we're very bad with boundaries. We think in very absolute terms. It's all good or it's all bad. It's black or it's white. We struggle to see the gray. And we take things very personally. We don't realize that often someone else's behavior is about them, not about us. And so that's why, obviously, if you take all of those, and there are many more, but those are the ones that make us particularly prone to developing burnout, because we don't have the wherewithal and the skills often to look after ourselves and to say no and to put up healthy boundaries.
And thank you for all these very specific and wonderful examples, because I think perhaps many of people in our audience can relate to those, and have those behaviors. What can we do about it, Judy? How can we start the process of healing, of perhaps, even be aware of it, right? Because sometimes we're not even aware.
Well, obviously, I think coaching is a very good start, but I think, and that's part of the reason why I wrote my books, is that coaching is expensive. It's a luxury and not everybody can afford it. And so my books are very, I think, accessibly written, and they're kind of like a self-help, do-it-yourself coaching workbook almost. There are lots of exercises, there are lots of writing exercises. And honestly, I think that if you combine informing yourself, so reading and getting information about what is going on so that you can identify it and name it and see that it's not just you, and then writing about it is the next best thing to going and having therapy or coaching. I'm a big believer in, I'm sure you've spoken about it many times before with your guests, about the Julia Cameron's The Morning Pages. And I think that those are unbelievably useful. I think any kind of journaling is useful. And I really do. I think that just by writing about what we are reading and listening to, we make sense of it. That's why I write. I write to make sense of the ideas that I'm gathering in my mind.
And I can relate to that, Judy. It helps me a lot as well to write, and I can understand and I see my thoughts. And how can we perhaps even look at that in a way that because sometimes I judge myself even for the things I write, right?
Mhm.
So that's so. How can we perhaps allow those thoughts to just flow,
Mhm.
and then look at it in a way that is not in any way. It's just more objective,
Yeah,
and
I think that's the beauty of the morning pages. The idea of the morning pages is that you don't look at them again. The idea is not to, it's not about what you are writing. It's about the act of writing that helps you to make sense of your thoughts and to kind of capture them and put them down. So I think on the one hand, it's a very useful exercise to start doing that so that you can write without judging.
yes.
Um, I also like the idea of writing with your non-dominant hand.
Okay, tell us a bit about that because I read about it, but let's share
Okay,
it with our
so I actually first learned about it from the woman who trained me to be a life coach, Martha Beck, and she speaks about writing with your non-dominant hand. There's a woman called Laura Carpaccioni who is an artist. She does art therapy and she gets people to draw with their non-dominant hand, which is very healing. And
yes.
I actually have started going to art classes or workshops where the instructor takes us through a step-by-step process to paint. The first one I painted was a rooster, and I painted some poppies and other things. And I do it with my left hand rather than my right hand. And I do that because I'm less judgmental of myself because I don't expect myself to do it perfectly because I'm not using my dominant hand. And so, because of that lack of expectation and judgment, I
Mhm.
can just allow myself to be free and to be creative. And so, it is actually quite amazing. I think I paint better with my left hand than I would with my right hand because I'm not editing myself. And it's not as easy, obviously, to write with one's non-dominant hand because but if the end point is the process rather than the product,
Yes.
it doesn't matter what your writing looks like. And so I
Yes.
really do think that that is an incredibly powerful way of giving ourselves permission to write without
Mhm.
judging ourselves.
Yes, and understand ourselves. I think this is
Yeah.
for me. This is the maybe the biggest benefit.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
just know ourselves and understand ourselves as a result of that.
Yeah.
And I know your work. It's around boundaries as well. So tell us a bit about what are boundaries, and yeah, how can we set them?
So I think boundaries, they're always tricky because I think that people speak about boundaries as like walls or fences or the way we separate ourselves from other people. And I think that that is true. I think that as adult children,
Mhm.
because we tend to think in extremes, we either have no boundaries at all or we have extremely firm, totally impenetrable boundaries, neither of which are healthy.
Mm.
Because obviously, when we have no boundaries, then there's nothing to keep us in and we can just run away and disappear. If we have boundaries that are too firm, it's a bit like a brick wall.
Yes.
Nothing can come in and nothing can get out. And so you're not letting anything good in, and we
Mm.
also aren't able to let anything bad out. So what I like to think of boundaries more as a fence that you can
Mhm.
see through, which allows the good stuff in and keeps the good stuff in and keeps
Yes.
the bad stuff out and allows the bad stuff out. It's a bit like osmosis. I don't know if you ever studied osmosis at school or university, but it's the idea that fluid can move through a semi-permeable membrane. So it keeps the plasma or whatever on the right side, but it lets in and out the bad stuff. And that's what we need to do. For me, a healthy boundary is a semi-permeable membrane. It's a barrier that we can choose mindfully what to let in and what to keep out and what to let out.
And I love this concept because I think it's normally we hear boundaries, how fixed they are and how they are meant to protect us. And I love this idea because actually they can also we can be restricted because of our boundaries.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
comfort zones then become closed because
Mm.
we have these boundaries and these are our boundaries.
Mhm.
So this also can prevent us from growing.
Exactly. And from letting good stuff in and from letting good
Mhm.
experiences in. And I've had so many clients who have had a difficult experience in childhood. They lost a parent early, or they had a bad first love experience or whatever, and they just shut down.
Mm.
And it works. It works to protect themselves. They'll never get hurt again, but they'll also never feel love again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's and how can we perhaps then is writing our boundaries helpful? Would you say?
I think it is, because I think that I give my clients things to write about.
Hmm.
So one of my kind of tools that I give to all of my clients is to be quiet and to be still every day for 20 minutes and to just check in with themselves. And often it feels safer to write when they're doing that. And I give them guiding questions, the most common of which are three, which is question one is, what am I feeling?
Yeah.
Not why, not how am I feeling, but what am I feeling? Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Am I hot? Am I cold? Am I tired? Am I hungry? Am I cross? Am I upset? Whatever. Then question two is, why am I feeling this way?
Hmm.
So maybe I'm tired because I didn't get enough sleep last night, or I'm hot because
It's
it's
hot
hotter
outside.
than I was expecting it to be today, or whatever. Or I've got a headache. This is such an frequent one. I've got a headache because I haven't had any water to drink today. That comes up a lot. And then the third question is, what do I want to do about it?
Mm.
So maybe drink water, or take off your jersey, or go to bed earlier tonight, or whatever. But in terms of the boundaries, often people, and not drinking water is a boundary issue, because if we are so busy and we're not allowing ourselves to look after ourselves properly, we're not having healthy boundaries. We're not having healthy boundaries around our time and our attention and our health.
Mm.
So that, why am I feeling this way, is actually very often an in a gateway into a boundary issue. Why am I tired? Because I didn't go to bed early enough last night. Why didn't I go to bed early enough last night? Because my partner or husband or spouse or whatever just kept wanting to watch another episode, another episode. That's a boundary issue. Why
Mm.
am I feeling resentful today? Because my boss asked me to work over the weekend. That's a boundary issue. And so if we do that exercise thoroughly, it really does help us to identify where our boundaries are blurry. And the what do I want to do about it is the important part of it. First of all, obviously, we need to identify what it is. But it's no good knowing what it is if we're not going to address it. So we need to say, I'm going to bed now.
Mm.
It's enough. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Or I'm stopping to go outside and have my lunch. Or I'm terribly sorry. I can't work for you over the weekend. I've got arrangements. I'll do it first thing on Monday morning. It's the what do I want to do about it that helps us set that boundary again.
Yes, and I love the taking responsibility part because it is about our own well-being.
Yeah.
So like this is not so much these people have done that or that's not
Mm.
relevant. It's more what can I do about it? So how can I
Exactly.
be responsible in a way that it
Mm.
creates for us better
Mm.
healthy environments?
Absolutely. Because we can't change someone else.
No.
Honestly, if I could change other people, I'd be rich as anything, but we can't change anybody else. The
No.
only thing we can change is if we are with them or how we are with them.
Mm.
And so that's where the change comes. If we
Yes.
start having healthy boundaries with people, we change our experience of them. And actually, what's interesting is that when we do that, then they start to change.
Yes, yes, it's
Mm.
a Carl Roger, right? We first need to accept the things
Yeah,
as they are
totally.
before before we can change them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think even with us, it's so difficult to change. So if I'm thinking about my own personal
Mm.
journey, it takes so long. Any
Mm.
form of
It
change that I want
does.
to do, I want to do it
Because
faster than I can. So
because we need to be aware of what we want to change before we can change it, and that's the hard part. The
mm,
hard part is developing the awareness, and
yeah,
that's, I think, where writing is so helpful, because it's such a safe space, because there is no one else there. When you're writing, it's just you and the page, and so you can afford to be honest and
yeah,
vulnerable.
yeah. Thank you. And tell us a bit about Recover from Burnout: Life Lesson to Regain Your Purpose and Passion. Tell us a bit about that
Mm.
book. What is it all about, and how can we regain purpose and passion?
So it's quite similar to, it's an extension of the recover from your childhood, and it really is, it's in two parts. The first part is designed to help you regain your energy and your purpose, and so they're very practical tools, like, what can you say no to so that you can pick yourself up again? Where can you ask for help? They're very practical. Get exercise, go outside every day, eat enough fresh fruit and veg, drink water. It's a very short section, that, of
Mhm,
practical, easy tips to do. And then
mhm,
the second section, which is a bit longer and a bit more technical, I suppose, is understanding why we get burnout.
mhm,
What are those adult child characteristics I spoke about, the feeling of not having a voice, the feeling of not being able to say no, not ask for help, worrying that if you don't do it, then it won't get done. That's a huge one. Not feeling okay to delegate. Um, those things don't come from nowhere. And so we need to understand what it is that is underlying our burnout. Because burnout isn't like chicken pox. We don't just wake up with it one morning. It evolves over a very long time of us ignoring our own needs and our own requirements. And it also, unlike chicken pox, you don't wake up 3 weeks later and suddenly you're better. It takes a lot of effort to kind of regain your energy, and B, to maintain it. And that's what the second half of the book is about. It's about understanding what we need to change in order to maintain our energy. Because if we don't change stuff, we're just going to get burnout again and again and again. And I see that. I've experienced it myself, and I see it with my clients. We need to identify what are the unconscious and sometimes conscious thoughts and
mm,
behaviors that are making us push ourselves too far for too long, that
mm,
give us burnout. Because if we don't change that, we're never gonna get free of burnout. We're just going to keep getting it. So
mm.
that's how the book is structured. And again, it's very practical, very simple, not necessarily easy, but very simple exercises. I work a lot with transactional analysis and understanding our ego states, the parent, adult, child. We use up an enormous amount of energy in our parent and child ego states, and less so in our adult ego state, which is part of the reason why it's important to try and be in our adults as much as possible. Um, I've got lots of very practical tools and techniques. As I say, simple, not necessarily easy, but simple.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you for that. And I know you are an advocate of the Gestalt therapy, and
Yes.
tell us a bit about that, because I think this is key to start to be aware of our body. So perhaps share it how you use that in your work.
So I wouldn't say that I use Gestalt an enormous amount, although earlier when you were saying we have to accept before we can change, that's the paradoxical theory of change from Gestalt, which I find incredibly useful. But I think that I use a lot of body work and listening to our body. And I think that for anybody, but I think particularly for adult children who have grown up in a very unpredictable environment, we tend to hide in our minds, and we can talk ourselves into or out of anything, whereas our bodies don't lie. And we need to listen to our bodies in order to get better and to get stronger. And that's also why, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? What do I want to do about it? Is so powerful, because it helps people to actually stop and check in with themselves and get out of their brains and into their bodies. Because honestly, our bodies are the only reliable source of information. And if we all listen to our bodies, we wouldn't get burnout. And we wouldn't get a whole lot of other things. We wouldn't allow our boundaries to be violated. So often with my clients, when they've had an unhelpful or unpleasant experience in a relationship, I say to them, how did you feel when you first met this person? And they'll say, oh, no, I felt a sense of absolute horror, and I didn't want to be there, but I told myself that I should go on a couple more dates with them, or I told myself I should give the job a chance. And it's because we have been taught to override our instincts and our physical sensations. And it's not a good idea. We really need to listen to what our bodies are saying to us. Yeah. It's time to go to bed. It's time to have some water. It's time to step away from this person. This job is not working for you. This relationship is not working for you.
Yeah. And what would you say is perhaps the line there? Because sometimes our bodies will tell us things more because of I don't know, like things that happen to us. Yeah. So then project that we do transference. How can we know, so that we make sure, okay, maybe perhaps we're not just creating a space where we just want to feel safe. Yeah. So how can we create a balancing exploration and being open, but also listening in a way to see, okay, do I have to actually look at this internally, or it's actually the the environment is not good for me? How can we do that?
Well, I think we have to interrogate it. So it's not just I'm feeling, I don't know, nervous, so I'm leaving. But it's, why am I feeling nervous? What is it that is making me feel nervous? Is this person untrustworthy? Do I feel unsafe? Is it reminding me of something that I did in the past? Is this happening to me now? Or is it something that is how old am I feeling right now? Is it a real threat, or is it an imagined threat? And I think, I really do think that we need to create and give ourselves the time and the space to really engage with that, and to give ourselves pause to interrogate our responses, our physical responses to things, and to understand where they are coming from. Because, you're right. I mean, if we said, well, I'm never, I had like using an example from me, I fell down an escalator, when a moving staircase, when I was a child. And for many years, I was too scared to get onto an escalator. And it wasn't a real danger. It was a remembered danger that I was responding to. And so one needs to be able to differentiate, is it something present, or is it something past? Is it something real, or is it something imagined? And writing can really help us to do that, because it forces us to slow down, because we can't write as quickly as we can think. And so when you are writing, it forces you to slow down and to really engage with your thoughts in a constructive way, rather than letting them just kind of flit through your head and move on to the next thing.
Yes, thank you for that. And very practical and insightful ways of, how can we tackle this, Judy? Thank you for that. And if we're thinking now about your last book, so tell us a bit about what's your last book about? Because it kind of went more into the work environment, right?
Yeah.
And preventing misunderstandings. And tell us about your last book.
So the last book, Make Work Work for You, is... although I think I'm going to write it. I vowed I was never going to write another one, but I think now I am. I think the next one's going to be called Find Yourself in Love. because, Freud said work and love. So we've done work. Now we can do love. Make work for you. It's also a kind of a progression from the adult child to the burnout to now. During COVID, I think so many people, their working lives were turned upside down. They were working from home. People really started to question their work and whether it was something that was working for them and something that they wanted to do, or whether they wanted to change aspects of it or all of it. And so I was doing a lot of coaching during COVID and post-COVID with people who were questioning their work and trying to decide whether to change all of it or some parts of it. And in South Africa, where I live, our economy is really not good and our unemployment rate is very high. And so unfortunately, that great resignation that was happening a lot in Europe and in the Northern Hemisphere, it just wasn't a luxury that most people in this country could afford. And so I kind of wanted to write a book to support people that even if they can't leave the job they're in, they can make changes to make it work better for them while they are here. And so it's based on the wheel of work that I created, which is 8 key areas of work, and there are 10 chapters, and the middle 8 chapters each look at a different area of that work: psychological safety, physical space, health and wellness, relationships at work, reward and recognition, meaning and values. There are 8 areas, and each of them also looks at very practical ways of making changes in each of those areas to make work feel like a safer space and a more boundaried space for people.
Well, thank you. I just realized we're on top of the hour. I don't even know when the time went by. So thank you, Judy, for our insightful conversation and practical advice that you've given us today. And if people want to find your books, where can they where do they find them?
Well, and thank you for having me. So they are available on Amazon.
Okay.
It's a bit tricky, and I mean, in South Africa, they're available through Take-A-Lot and Loot, but I don't know if those are available in the rest of the world. But Amazon, Kindle, you can order them, but Great. It takes a while. The hard copy, that's where they're available.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for today. And I wish you best of luck in the amazing work that you do with your clients, helping them find their own well-being.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on your podcast.